Hello, mentees. Welcome to the Technology Mentor channel. This is your host, Arunav, who will be taking you through the world of technology and will explore a lot of tech concepts and will learn various technology in this journey. Let's start the journey with the concept of Spring Data JPA. And let's see what are the main bullet points that we have uh, in this. We will first look into the ORM definition. Then we will look at what are the basic annotations which will be needed to map a table to a entity class. Then we will look into an example in detail, a project where all the basic annotation will be used. We'll look into the table structure, and we will also have a closer look at the Maven dependency that will be used in that project. Then there will be then we will be using the entity class in the project to map the table, and we will use REST API to do some CRUD operation, for which you will be using the JPA repository. For that, we will look into the methods and hierarchy of JPA repository, by which we could get a CRUD application. Then we will write our own methods, own custom method, which is not provided by JPA repository out of the box. There are provision for that, but we can write our own method. We'll explore that. At the same time, we will look in the queries which runs at the backend whenever we use our own methods, as well as we will look into the uh, in CRUD operation, what are the queries which get fired in the during the backend, right? So now let's get started with this. Let's look into the definition. Object relational mapping is a functionality which is used to develop and maintain a relationship between an object and a relational database table by mapping an object attributes to database column. So let's look into few things over here. Now we have got object oriented world, we have got objects, and in our RDBMS, we have got tables. Now ORM provides a bridge between these two, where I can map a object to a table tuple. So in class, we can demarcate as a entity class which will be mapped to a table. Now how I will do that? Mapping objects, like object attributes, to a particular database column, you know. So by this, we my table uh, is will be a class, entity class, and an object will hold a the one which is holding a object state will be preferring as a tuple, right? Now let's look at the basic annotation which will be used to demarcate these, to get ORM functionality. We will be using at entity annotations, we will be using at table annotations to demarcate, to map a particular table to a object. uh, a at entity, we will be using to annotate a class as a entity class. Now at id, I will be using to map a attribute of the class, which is the primary key, to the corresponding primary key of the database table. At generated value will be used to define what is the ID generation strategy that I will be using. There are various ID generation strategy. I want to leave it to a sequence. I want to leave it to the database. I want to leave it to a automatic generation strategy, or I want to maintain a different table for that, to generate the IDs. What strategy I will going to use for generating the primary key that I will be defining by virtue of generated values. Then at column, the basic rudimentary one, which as the name suggests, will be used to map a class attribute to a particular table uh, attribute. Now, let's look into this in a project. Uh, so I have got a simple project uh, where I have got a organization entity. Uh, Organization entity has got org ID, org name, org code, org head name, number of employee, created by, status, right? Pretty straightforward. Now there is this, I want to map it to this organization uh, table which is present in the database in ad underscore tech mentor database. I'm schema. I have got this organization table. Now org id is auto incremented, and it's the primary key. The value is the auto incremented value right now at is at 1008. uh, Org name, it has got org code, org underscore head underscore name. Let's skip the date part right now, date time part. We will map only the varchar or int attributes right now. We will revisit the date and time in next lecture. Now, then I have got a created by status, right? So now before going a little further, let's quickly have a look into the pom.xml. My pom.xml is pretty straightforward. I have got Spring Data JPA, Spring Boot Starter Data JPA, which comes whenever I will add Spring Data JPA as dependency in a Spring Boot application. I have got a Spring Boot Starter Web dependency, simple vanilla. Whatever whenever I will add Spring Web in a Spring Boot application, I have got a MySQL connector. Uh, because I want to use MySQL database. That is the reason I have used MySQL connector. Then I have got Lombok because I don't want to write boilerplate code of getter and setter. Then I have got test dependency. Later I will be writing test cases of this also. That is the reason I have used this. That's it. That's pretty much of it that I want to use for hot deployment. I have used Spring DevTools. Okay, now jumping to the organization class, I have used add entity annotation to demarcate this as a entity class. Now add table, I have used name attribute of the table annotations, and in that I have demarcate what table it is mapped to. Then org id, which is my primary key I want to map. uh, I have used add id annotation, and I have specified generated value as, yeah. Okay, so this has a identity is something that it leaves to the database to maintain, uh, to generate the next value and then assign it, right? Now let's see what are the other generated type are there. Identity, auto, sequence. uh, in Oracle and DB2 databases like this, we have got database sequence which can be used to generate the next value. Now, instead identity in MySQL, the table itself has the option of generating the next value, so identity can be used for that. Now, table is another type of generated values where you can specify the table name. In future lecture we could also have a look at this, where I will be looking at the table name. Okay, now, but you must have noticed something, that this is org id and the attribute name over here is org underscore id, right? Similarly, I have got org underscore code, whereas I have not used any annotations over here, but I am trying to map org capital letters C, I mean camel case code. Now, how is this going to work? So, the reason is going to work is, if you will, in the add entity class, if you have a attribute by which has got a camel case naming convention, then by default it's going to look as org underscore id in database table, in the table that you will be mapping to. Similarly, org uh, camel case code will be converted into org underscore code. That's the feature uh, Spring Data JPA slash Hibernate will provide you out of box. Now, so now I have mapped all the attributes. Now let's start the application and see if I am getting any error. So if there is a issue in the mapping, the application itself will complain, stating things are not correct. Cool. The application is getting started. So my mapping is intact. Now let's see. Let's try to create a repository class. Now the way I want to structure it is, I will be writing a REST controller, which is going to call a service class, and service class is going to call a repository class, right? So I have got all the methods and structured created for you, so that we don't waste time in writing code. Now, get all organizations calls a service method, which is in turn calling the get all organization, which is then it will be calling the repository method. Now, in while we are doing that, let's look into the what all things we have got in the JPA repository method. So to write a repository uh, interface, we have to extend JPA repository. Worth noticing over here that, unlike the older version of Spring Data JPA, or rather Spring, here we don't have to write any class, any repository class. We just have to write a repository interface by extending JPA repository interface, and out of box all the methods will be given to you. So all the basic methods like uh, create, delete, update, get and find, all those things, retrieve, all those things will be given to you out of box. But along with that, there will be lots and lot of features, like when you want to do a uh, like operation, where you want to do a in operation, you want to do a between operation, you want to do distinct operation. All those features also you can achieve by just following some naming convention, right? We will see that. We'll see that in a while. Now, what are the basic method of JPA repository? JPA repository has got a find all. Find by find all returns a list. Find by id will be find by the primary key. Then I have got that it has got a save. Then it has got save takes a object of the type that the JP repository is used for, and it retrieves and it returns the same type. Now save all also use a list of same type of object, and which it has to save, and it will return the same list, the persistent list that it will be it have persisted, right? Now delete by id will be returning a void, and it's going to delete. Now similarly delete all by id, it takes a iterable which extend the id, right? The id that JPA repository uh, defines anything, any iterable uh, which extend the id type. Now, now let's look into uh, the the interface hierarchy, class hierarchy of JPA repository. It has got a repository which is a marker interface. Now a Crud repository which is having all the CRUD operation. Then we have got the pagination and sorting repository, which will be used for pagination and sorting our data from that we retrieve from database. We will have a dedicated session on this. Then we will it then we have our JPA repository. Now let us quickly run our application and see what are the methods that we are performing. So we have got get we have got a get all just calls the uh, get all method of the repository class. Let's look into the service class. Sorry. So it calls the finds all, right? uh, Similarly get organization by id is going it takes a id in the path variable and get a organization. Now these are the things that I want to cover in next, but yeah, yeah. So I have got a post mapping which will be used for saving, which is like create operation. I am going to use repository dot save method. Then I have got update. Where is the update? Yes, update organization, where I will be passing the entity that I am going to persist. Worth mentioning that I am going to use the put mapping, put uh, HTTP put for that. Then I am going to use same save or update method. I mean repo or organization repository dot save I'm going to call. Now what it does, whenever the primary key is not set, in the organization object, it's going to treat this as a create. Whenever primary key is set in the object which has to be persistent, it will find that entity by the primary key, and it will do a update operation. That's something that JPA provides you. Okay, then comes my delete organization method, which will take a org id and will be deleting it. uh, and underneath it's going to call the org organization repository delete by id. Right, now let us test these things quickly and see how it is working. Before that, let us have a quick look at my select star from. So I have got few entries over here. um, Now first, I will do a get all. Right, I'm going to do a get all organization. Okay, perfect. So let's see how many object I got. I have got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 and 6, which is the case that I have got. I have got 6 records over here, and I got 6 objects while I did a get all. Right, now next will be get by id. Where is my get by id? Don't tell me. What is this? I don't have get by id. Okay, no worries, we will do it right away. What is the structure? Let us see this. Org id. Do I have 1000? Yes. Cool. Now let me save this. Oops, I didn't. Okay, so I did what all we tried. We tried a get all, we tried a get by id. Now let us quickly jump into save and update. I have got some pre data loaded. 0 था, organization code some random number, math, what's the 0 था, founder term, whatever, Kamath. Rest number of employee, I'll just make it some random 2500. Okay, cool. Now zoom, it got passes, it got saved. Yeah, right, so it persisted 0 tha, but we saw that rest of the things have got a time and date, but this is not having. We will revisit that part. Now I have got a update also. Metacorp is 1001. Metacorp is 1001. Right, let's update the number of employees to 10,000. Right. Yep. Some name, some change in the name, and I wish it should reflect over here. Right. Okay, done. Now let us quickly delete organization. Don't tell me delete organization. Okay, delete organization, delete all organization, delete. Okay, I don't want to use this. Okay, so delete mapping is path variable. No, this is get. This is get. Okay. Okay, so yep, this is correct. Then this is not delete all organization, delete organization. So whatever I created, I'll delete that. But it's there in the path variable, not a request param. Yes. Do I have some other thing which is request param also? No. Cool. So yeah. Now let's look into the queries. Right. So first we did a get all. Now get all is let's copy this. So select blah 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 from. So this is select star from organization, right? Specific attributes it is selecting. Now then the next one, uh, getting org by id, right? Where select blah 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 blah. Okay, still we have right. So where org id equal to something, right? So that's the select by organization. Now coming to save is insert into organization, blah blah blah, then values, right? Similarly, update is first select series. Now this is interesting. So first it is selecting, and then what the hell is happening? First it is, so in case of update, first it is selecting by id, right? We didn't mention anything, but it is selecting by id, then it is updating, right? So select, update is actually a select, as I mentioned, a select and then update where org id, uh, or, depending on the org id, right? Similarly, delete is again select, then delete by the org id, right? So if you see underneath, framework is actually running all these queries for you. Now in by virtue of this, you are your by virtue of this mapping and repository class, all the boilerplate code of writing queries is given to framework, and then framework is taking care of you for of all these operations. Cool. That's about it. The first session where we looked into a basic class, a basic model entity. Uh, we mapped it. We did a CRUD operation on that, and then in the next session we will be looking into writing our uh, more operations of on the JPA repository, and then we will be doing retrieval and various operation on that, right? Cool, then great. Thanks guys, see you in the next lecture, and stay tuned. If you like, hit the like button. It's your host Arunab signing off.